Welcome to Global News on Signature TV. I am Barry Kumo Ado. In the headlines, President Bola Tinubu tells governors to give priority to the welfare of Nigerians. Federal government approves new policy to regulate trade unions' activities. Rwanda, Congo hold first meeting of Joint Oversight Committee on the peace deal. And Cambodian garment workers optimistic after tariff deal with US. Details in a moment.
Center for Memories Enugu invites Ndi Igbo and lovers of Ndi Igbo and our great heritage to attend the August 2025 edition of Nkatu Umuibe, the regular interactive gathering of Ndi Igbo to discuss issues of the past that shape today and tomorrow of Ndi Igbo. The topic of Nkatu Umuibe August 2025 edition is Igbo Ebezina, reclaiming the Igbo voice in national conversations. Guest speaker, Ebubedike Vin Martin Obiora Ilo, President and CEO, Signature TV and Signature Media and Development Foundation. Date, Friday, August 1st, 2025. Venue, Center for Memories, number 2 August Street by Umoji Street, Independence Layout, Enugu. Time, 4 p.m. prompt. Nkatu Umuibe is powered by Center for Memories, Enugu. Join Signature TV on SLTV Channel 265 and on YouTube for the live broadcast of this historic event.
Signature TV, news in your pocket.
President Bola Tinubu has told state governors to give priority to the welfare of Nigerians by investing more in rural education, agricultural mechanization, poverty eradication, and infrastructure. Tinubu gave the charge following the presentation by the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Abubakar Bagudu, at the 150th meeting of the National Economic Council held at the State House Council Chambers, Abuja. Said that time has come for the various levels of government to change the story of the people in the rural areas, especially now that the economy is on the path of recovery. Tinubu will stress the need to stimulate growth in the rural areas, urge state governors to collaborate with the federal government to drive economic development all over the country. He directed the National Economic Council to set up a committee to enhance the actualization of legacy projects, especially Lagos-Calabar and the Sokoto-Badagry superhighways. The National Economic Council has called for the strengthening of state emergency management agencies across the 36 states of the Federation. Resolution followed presentation by the Director General of the National Emergency Management Agency, Zubaida Umar, on the country's 2025 flood preparedness and response initiatives during the Council's meeting. Council urged state governments to fully strengthen SEMA activities and enforce physical planning laws and building code compliance, as well as institutionalize monthly environmental sanitation while prioritizing disaster preparedness funding in annual budgets. It added that local government areas and communities should take ownership of local risk mitigation efforts, engage actively in awareness campaigns, and report early signs of flood risk to appropriate authorities. NEMA's presentation detailed the agency's progress since 2024, including the production of a National Disaster Risk Reduction Strategy and Action Plan, with United Nations support and ongoing validation of a Nigeria Hazard Risk Countrywide Analysis for 2024. NEMA, however, identified persistent challenges hindering effective flood response, including weak drainage infrastructure, delayed data reporting from states, insecurity in flood-prone areas, limited functionality of SEMAs, and inactive local emergency management committees. The federal government has approved the National Industrial Relations Policy in a bid to curtail incessant industrial actions by trade unions. Briefing State House correspondent at the end of a Federal Executive Council meeting presided over by President Bola Tinubu, the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, explained that a new policy would regulate activities of trade unions. Said the National Industrial Relations Policy for the country stems from the need to have a guiding policy document aimed at fostering harmonious industrial relations within the workplace for both employers and employees. The policy said is essential for regulating the conduct of the various trade unions within the industrial relations space in the country. According to him, the policy would ensure a seamless workload, promote social dialogue and tripartite cooperation among government employers and workers, and also align Nigeria's industrial relations practices with global standards. Speaking on the ongoing nationwide strike by the National Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwives, Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Ali Pate, noted concerns raised by the union over a recent circular by the National Salaries, Income and Wages Commission has been withdrawn. He said the federal government is in the process of negotiating revised allowances transparently, revealing that active discussions are ongoing with key associations and unions, including the Nigerian Medical Association, NMA. The national chairman of the National Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwives, Morakio Olajide says the union will not call off the ongoing strike based on mere promises. Speaking in Abuja, Rewan said meetings with government representatives seeking an end to the strike had been mostly inconclusive, and that the union expected a signed agreement in the form of a Memorandum of Understanding (MOU). Rewan said the union gave government enough time to respond to their demands before embarking on a 7-day warning strike, but nothing was done. He said a meeting between the union and the Minister of Labour, Mohamedou Dingyadi, on Thursday ended in a deadlock due to the absence of key stakeholders, including the Minister of Health and the head of service. Critical health services are being severely affected by the ongoing nationwide strike by National Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwives. Remaining medical staff were left to fill the gap created by the striking nurses are already being stretched, resulting in certain operations being grounded. Correspondent Chimeze Zedima, who visited some hospitals in the highbrow Maitama district and a sprawling suburb of Mbappe, tells us more.
Patients and their relatives are at the receiving end of the Nigerian nurses strike, which entered the second day on Thursday. No new admission is being accepted and patients are not being discharged. At the Mbappe Medical Center, which is a first-level healthcare provider, nobody was willing to provide information. Signs of the effects of the strike could only be gleaned by the empty reception desks, with patients and relatives moving in and out, an indication that some skeletal service could be ongoing. The only official who spoke to Signature News refused to speak on the camera and could not disclose his name. The director is not around, was all he volunteered. The situation was much the same at the Maitama District Hospital. A senior administrator who chose to remain anonymous confirmed that although the hospital's nursing unit is observing the strike, other units continue to function. He said that the burden has shifted to doctors and allied health professionals, who now work extra hours to fill in critical gaps. At the surgical and theatre units, where nurses play essential roles in patient preparation for surgery, such operations are having to be rescheduled. Only emergency situations are being attended to, with doctors having to undertake the whole procedure. While emergency admissions are still being accepted, there are no new regular admissions or discharge. Patients whose bed space payment lapses during the strike will not be charged extra, as services remain limited. Other departments such as radiography, pharmacy, and pediatrics are still running at full capacity. But doctors now report for duty as early as 7 a.m. and close as late as 8 p.m., significantly longer than their normal shift hours. The Maitama Hospital source expressed hope that the government will respond to the nurses' demands within days to pave the way for a resolution. However, until then, the ripple effects of the nurses' industrial action continue to mount across Nigeria's healthcare facilities. From overstretched staff to delayed surgeries, the nurses' strike has cast a shadow on patient care in public hospitals. As talks continue behind closed doors, patients and health workers alike are left hoping for swift government intervention. In Abuja, I am Chimize Zadima for Signature TV.
The Kwara State High Court, Ilorin, has sentenced Abdul Rahman Bello to death by hanging for killing Hafsol Lawal, a final year student of the College of Education in Ilorin. Delivering a judgment on Thursday, Justice Hannah Ajayi cleared and set 4 other defendants, including Ahmed Abdul Wasiu, Jamil Uthman, Suleiman Muhyiddin, and Abdul Rahman Jamil free of any wrongdoing. Justice Ajayi described the killing of Hafsa as cruel, wicked, and an extreme display of human wickedness. She said all evidence proved that Hafsa was killed in order to be used for money ritual and trading in human spare parts. His confession of love and plan to marry her, the judge noted, are all concocted lies to lure her to his residence in order to kill her. The offense was said to have been committed on February 10, 2025 at Uluade area in Ilorin, where the victim was said to have been invited by a boyfriend, Abdurrahman Bello, who killed and dismembered her body in his room after having sex with her. Upon being arrested and interrogated, the palm of disease and a bottle filled with blood and personal belongings of the dead were found in Bello's room, while other parts of her decomposed body were later found at a nearby dump site in Ilorin. The Federal Court of Appeals sitting in Akure, Ondo State Capital, has affirmed the election of Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa, the All Progressives Congress APC candidate in the November 16, 2024 governorship election in the state. Aiyedatiwa, who contested under the APC, was declared winner by the Independent National Electoral Commission after securing 366,781 votes and winning across all 18 local government areas. He defeated his closest rival, Agboola Ajayi of the People's Democratic Party, PDP. Ondo State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal had on June 4, 2025, dismissed multiple petitions challenging this election, including one filed by Ajayi, which alleged widespread irregularities. Tribunal chaired by Justice Benson Ogubo also struck out similar petitions from the Social Democratic Party, African Democratic Congress, Allied People's Movement, and African Alliance, affirming Aiyedatiwa's mandate. Supreme Court had on March 11, 2025, dismissed a separate appeal filed by Ajayi challenging Aiyedatiwa's candidacy, where the Apex Court ruled that the case was filed out of time. Up ahead, Tinubu extends Adeniyi's tenure as Customs Comptroller General. Bauchi government woos Southeast investors with promising opportunities. Details of these and more after the break.
Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking. Events occur and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, says the federal government is ever committed to developing policy frameworks that would foster media innovation, safeguard press freedom, and enable both existing and emerging entities and platforms to thrive as self-sustaining organizations. Idris, who spoke at the Media Sustainability Conference in Abuja, said the federal government has prioritized national reorientation, strengthened public communication systems, and independent journalism as pillars of democracy. Signature TV correspondent Nasiru Usman has the report.
It was a two-day media sustainability conference that brought together veteran media personalities, publishers, editors, and reporters across print, broadcast, and multimedia to discuss the way forward for media sustainability in Nigeria. The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, who was represented by the Executive Secretary, Nigerian Press Council, Dr. Dili Ezuga, noted that President Bola Tinubu has remained steadfast in delivering reforms that enhance transparency, drive economic recovery, and secure the nation's democratic space, while nurturing an environment where innovation in the media can flourish without fear or favor.
We acknowledge that independent journalism remains a pillar of democracy. That is why we are committed to creating policy frameworks that encourage media innovation, protect press freedom, and support the transition of legacy and emerging platforms into viable, self-sustaining entities. Our collaboration with stakeholders, locally and internationally, reflects our belief that the sustainability of Nigeria's media must be co-owned and co-driven.
The chairman, Daily Trust Foundation, Malam Bilia Bala, advocated for collaboration between the media and more funding organizations. He called for the application of new revenue model for media businesses to thrive.
Things are changing so rapidly that we are faced with new challenges every day. How do we survive as a media? And how do we continue our work which supports democracy? So basically, I thought that we can learn from others and also contribute our own ideas about how the media can survive as a business first before it can even do its own editorial work. I mean, that's what is coming out of the conference, and that accords with my thinking and experience with media. Defining your audience and trying to serve that audience. Secondly, finding a way to make money from that audience. Easier said than done, but that's what it takes.
In his address, Director of the Nigerian Office of the MacArthur Foundation, Dr. Kole Shetima, emphasized the urgent need for sustainable media and national accountability. He underscored the inseparable link between editorial independence and financial viability, describing them as essential foundations of a vibrant democracy.
I am hoping that this project will have sown the seeds of sustainability of our media organization in the country. I hope that these ideas will be used by many of you and use it also to collaborate, but also to see how we can actually continue this conversation around the sustainability of the media itself. Media, in my view, is a long-haul investment in public service, in the future of our country, in our democracy, in our own accountability landscape. And therefore, sustaining the media, I think, is critical and very important. And I would also like to hope and call upon other Nigerians who have the opportunity to support the media ecosystem in the country, to also invest in supporting the media ecosystem, because I believe that the health of the media is also the health of the country itself.
There were goodwill message from a number of stakeholders.
The NUG is committed to safeguarding the future of journalism in our country. In a time of rapid technological change, economic uncertainty, and growing threats to press freedom, the need for future-proof of our profession has never been more urgent. The future of Nigerian democracy depends on the strength of resilience of its media. Together, let's chart a path that ensures journalism not only survives, but thrives.
There are three main kinds of revenue that a media company can rely on these days. One is audience revenue, and I think that is the best kind you can get. So if you're relying on your audience and you're producing content that's meaningful enough for somebody to be willing to pay for it, that means, one, you're serving your audience, and two, it gives you a very strong financial foundation to build on.
The Nigerian Guild of Editors has long advocated for support for the media, including tax rebates, import duty waivers, and treating media products as educational materials. The media has played a vital role in entrenching democracy, promoting good governance, and fostering peace and unity in Nigeria.
The path forward is clear. Media organizations must diversify revenue sources, harness technology responsibly, engage audiences authentically, and build robust support system. The program is supported by the MacArthur Foundation. In Abuja, Nasir Usman for Signature TV.
Former Kogi West Senator Dino Melai has officially resigned from the People's Democratic Party, PDP. His resignation was contained in a letter dated July 30 and addressed to the PDP chairman of Ward 1 in Ayetoro Bede, Ijumu local government area of Kogi State. Melai anchored his resignation on PDP's failure to rescue Nigeria from what he described as the prevailing political cankerworms. The close ally of former Vice President Atiku Abubakar is a key member of the African Democratic Congress, ADC. Melai becomes the latest chieftain to resign from the PDP following the formation of the opposition coalition. The founder and pioneer chairman of the African Democratic Congress, Ralph Musu, has declared that no form of inducement or political pressure from the present administration would stop the party from building a strong opposition coalition. Musu, who spoke on a live television program, accused the federal government of trying to frustrate the ADC through offers of political appointments and internal sabotage. He said that what he did at the last National Executive Council meeting of the party was to send a signal so that the presidency and people pretending to be Democrats who are on the other side should be careful, advising them against ruining the country's democracy. Was alleged that representatives of the presidency had approached him with offers, including ministerial appointments, while individuals allegedly acting as saboteurs had filed court cases aimed at halting the coalition's progress. The tenure of the Comptroller General of Nigeria Customs Service, Bashiru Adeniyi, has been extended by President Bola Tinubu. A statement by presidential spokesperson Bayo Nanuga said that Adeniyi's tenure, which is due to expire on August 31, 2025, has now been extended by 1 year. He said that the extension would enable Adeniyi to consolidate ongoing reforms and complete critical initiatives of the administration. The reforms, according to Nanuga, includes modernization of the Nigerian Customs Service, the implementation of a national single window project, and execution of Nigeria's obligations under the African Continental Free Trade Area Protocol. He added that President Tinubu recognizes Adeniyi's steadfast leadership and commitment to service and hoped that extension will further strengthen the Nigeria Customs Service in achieving its strategic mandate of trade facilitation, revenue generation, and border security. The Bauchi State Government in Nigeria Northeast State is inviting investors and businesses to the Southeast to explore the investment potential in the state. At an investment summit in Enugu, the Bauchi State Governor, Bala Mohammed, enjoined Southeasterners to come to the state and enjoy what it has in stock. Correspondent Raymond Ken Mbata was at the summit.
The Bauchi State Government is desirous of boosting the economy of the state by growing the gross domestic product of the state. The state believes that it can best do this by reaching out to other geopolitical zones of the country and beyond. It is this desire that brought about the Bauchi Investment Summit in Enugu. Governor of the state, Bala Mohammed, represented by the Secretary to Bauchi State Government, Honorable Aminu Hamayo, encouraged private sector participation in the state. He also said that only through judicious use of human and natural resources that sustainable wealth can be created.
And let me also add that the government has done a lot to provide, not just the framework but the environment, for investments to thrive. We're giving our words to stand up as a government to protect investments that are coming and to guarantee the safety of lives and property that are coming into Bauchi. So, in a nutshell, this is why we are here. And I would also say that we are very, very happy with the kind of turnout that we have gotten here in the Southeast.
Chairman of the occasion and former Minister of Power, Professor Chinedu Nebo, commended the Bauchi State Government for showcasing the potentials of the state to the outside world. Nebo, who was also a Vice Chancellor of the University of Nigeria and the Federal University, Oye-Ekiti, encouraged the Southeast to take advantage of the investment opportunities in Bauchi State.
I think it is something that ought to be done and is being done to have such a roadshow for the Southeast. It just goes to point to mind the belief in my friend, Governor of Bauchi State, beloved Senator Bala Mohammed, that he's a go-getter, a man of vision, and a visionary. He realizes that if you want trade and commerce to bloom, go to the Southeast. If you want people to promote trade and commerce, get the Southeasterners to do it. When that summit comes in October, I believe it will be very successful. The governor doesn't do anything that will not be successful. I know him very well. And he has an array of brilliant lieutenants who are working with him here, beginning from the SLTV commissioners, advisors, assistants, and all that. But here gathered among us too are some of the titans of industry, commerce, and agriculture in the Southeast. I believe that whatever message they get from here, they will easily disseminate to the various bodies that they represent.
Participants at the event spoke on the potential benefits of the summit and the possible collaborations with the Southeast.
It's more like an eye-opening event to tell us that the Bauchi state government actually involved in things like this, and it's a sign that they want us, we the Southeasterners, to invest in their state, and they are actually open and they're willing to accommodate us and support us along the way. Yeah, so that's my take on this summit. Like looking around, you see that there are a lot of young men around here, though they're actually elderly people here, but there are so many young people here. So, craving the indulgence of youths around the Southeast is also a very crucial way of letting the individuals know that the government is part of us and the government is willing to support us.
That is a very welcome development. The Bauchi state government is seeking collaboration with the Eastern Corridor. We are looking at opening up the corridor, the region, as economic hub. So they are seeking collaboration, they're seeking partnership. They're also seeking for investors. The Eastern region is filled with entrepreneurs, business models, people who have invested in various parts of the world. So everybody knows that an average Igbo man is very hardworking. So anywhere he finds him or herself, he puts something very tangible there. So, and I can say that it is a very good move from the Bauchi state to seek collaboration from the Eastern business owners and the manufacturers.
We're here basically to have a partnership that will accord us mutual benefit. We're here to let you know what people of Bauchi State has to offer, what Bauchi has to offer in terms of investment. And we are looking at about 10 different key priority sectors for people to come in and invest, ranging from hospitality, agriculture, mineral resources, energy, fintech, among others.
Goodwill messages came from representatives of trade organizations, groups, and stakeholders. Raymond Ken Bata reporting for Signature TV.
The management of the Nigerian Shippers Council is calling for collective efforts between the federal and state governments, as well as the private investors in developing the dry port at Isialangwa, in Isialangwa local government area of Abia State. The executive secretary of the council, Pius Ukeyima, made a call when he led a delegation of the council on a visit to Abia State Governor Alex Oti. Ukeyima pushed for a faster and more effective delivery of the project, which he said would directly impact the economy of Abia State, the southeastern region, and indeed the nation as a whole.
Indirect jobs, especially in logistics, warehousing, transportation, and services, and also to boost Abia State's internally generated revenue through increased trade volumes and value-added economic activities. Your Excellency, it is important to situate this project within the wider context of the African Continental Free Trade Area, a transformative agreement that offers enormous income potential for Nigeria and sub-national economies like Abia State. Your Excellency, AFTA creates a single continental market of over 1.4 billion people with a combined GDP of over 3.4 trillion, opening vast trade opportunities for local producers and manufacturers here in Abia State.
Commitment of a state government towards the actualization of a project. They have requested that the details of initial project proposal be reviewed in order to avoid false starts and design workable plans for the swift realization of a project.
We want to be sure that when you have invested money done on a very, very it will be patronized. You've seen that even with the port, for that port, Calabar, a lot of our people still hate Lagos. That's the reason. So if you don't understand why people do what they do, you can't even solve the problem. I can't sit here and tell you that I have a solution. No. I don't. I'm still learning. I'm happy to learn so that we can solve the problem once and for all.
When actualized in Chia Inland Dry Port, Isialangwa would enhance revenue generation, improve internally generated revenue for Abia State, and generate employment opportunities, thereby reducing crime and insecurity in the southeast. The Nigeria Governors Forum, comprising 36 state governors, is committed to collaborating with the federal government to address the country's education crisis, characterized by high numbers of out-of-school children and poor learning outcomes. At a state-level workshop in Abuja, NGF Chairman and Kwara State Governor Abdul Rahman Abdul Razak, represented by Leo Ebenezer, highlighted that only 27% of primary 3 pupils have adequate reading skills. He also noted a shortage of over 200,000 qualified teachers, with 27% of current basic level teachers unqualified. Organized by the NGF with the Federal Ministry of Education, UBEC, and New Globe, the workshop aimed to bridge learning gaps and reintegrate out-of-school children. Minister of State for Education, Dr. Suwaiba Ahmed, revealed that only 60% of UBE funds are utilized, and criticized the overloaded curriculum, with primary school pupils studying up to 12 subjects. She said the federal government plans to reduce the number of subjects to 7 for primary 1 to 3 to improve outcomes, but stressed that state support is crucial for success. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, wants Nigerian youth to take the center stage in politics and governance in the country instead of protesting from the sideline. Abbas made a call during a campaign led by the Youth in Parliament Forum aimed at mobilizing young Nigerians to run for offices ahead of the 2027 general elections.
In an era of growing political awareness, there are renewed calls for greater inclusiveness in politics and governance. One group which feels alienated over the years is the youth population, who have remained on the sideline in decision-making platforms. At the launch of the Take Action campaign in Abuja, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, reminded the youth that time has come for them to participate rather than agitate. He threw his weight behind the Not Too Young to Run initiative and a bill proposing reserved legislative seats for women. And talking about inclusive governance, Nigerian lawmakers are advocating a bill to increase female representation in politics through reserved seats. Chairman House Committee on Reserved Seats for Women, Honorable Kafilat Obara, and Chairman Senate Committee on Women, Senator Ireti Kingbe, argued that more women in politics will help fight poverty and promote development.
The importance of the bill. The reserved seat bill for women is not just about numbers. It is about giving women a voice in decision-making processes that affect their lives and communities. By increasing women's representation, we can ensure that their perspectives, their views, needs, rights are adequately addressed in policy formulation and implementation. This bill aligns with international commitments to gender equality, including the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly Goal 5, which calls for achieving gender equality and empowering all women and girls. Studies have shown that when women are included in decision-making processes, economic growth is accelerated and benefiting to the entire nation as well. It will also interest you that we have sponsored 3 bills to increase the percentage of women in our security institutions recently, thereby promoting gender equality and inclusivity in our security institutions.
These seats, we must have them. So I advocate and call on all the women of this country to please go out, speak to the men, speak to everybody you can speak to get their support for these 74 reserve seats. Then I would also like to point out to everybody else in the nation, this isn't just about women, it's about the whole country. It's about the development of the country. It is shown everywhere that where there are more female representation, the countries are better developed economically. And we know that as the giant of Africa, we need to get ahead of everybody. I would also like to call, as my sister said, on all the governors, because we need their support in the state houses of assembly. This seat is about Nigeria.
The United Nations Development Programme and other advocates are also rallying support for the bill.
I want Nigerian women to know the movement, this movement we have for the advancement of women must continue. Honorable Kafilat, we need more of you in Parliament. I pray that the women that come to represent these 6 seats by God's grace, the special seats for women by God's grace will come and it will be a reality. But the women we choose must be a voice. They must be voices for many other women.
Despite making up nearly half of Nigeria's population, women currently occupy fewer than 5% of seats in the National Assembly. This isn't just a gap, it is a call to action. A call to dismantle structural barriers, disrupt the status quo, and build a more inclusive and just governance system. So the Reserve Seats Bill, in our opinion, is a transformative response to that call. A call to deal with dismantling structural barriers, disrupting the status quo. It affirms the principle that women belong at the table, not as guests, but as decision makers, not as exceptions, but as equals.
And back in the House of Representatives, the Independent Corrupt Practices Commission, ICPC, has raised alarm over corruption lapses in government institutions. A report presented to the House revealed that 92 ministries, departments and agencies, MDAs, still lack functioning anti-corruption and transparency units. The Commission attributed the failure to poor funding, executive interference, and lack of political will, calling for training, awareness, and better institutional support.
We realize that in the compliance rating, we have 6 categories. We have the full compliance, that is MDAs that score 95% and above, and then we have substantial compliance, partial compliance, poor compliance, non-compliance, and non-responsive. But over time, we realize that some MDAs will fall into substantial compliance, while the NDA is not effective. So this year going forward, ATU is now a standalone key performance indicator.
Declaring the hearing open, Speaker of the House of Representatives, represented by Honorable Omar Ajilo, said the session was not a witch hunt, but a proactive effort to assess the performance of acting corruption units and strengthening institutional integrity.
This public hearing aims to assess the functionalities and effectiveness of the anti-corruption and transparency unit across all MDAs to identify their challenges and explore viable strategies for addressing the challenge. The public hearing is also intended to discuss potential legislative and policy measures that can strengthen this unit and promote transparency, accountability in governance operations.
Chairman of House Committee on Anti-Corruption, Honorable Kayode Akiolu, stressed that the hearing addressed a critical issue central to Nigeria's democratic development. Stakeholders recommended that anti-corruption units should be institutionalized into the MDAs and made to report directly to permanent secretaries.
Next is Token Money Markets Report.
The Nigerian Stock Exchange market ended the last trading session of July on a mixed note, as a total of 1,101,676,027 shares were exchanged in 37,365 deals, amounting to a market value of 32.99 billion naira. When compared to Wednesday's session, this reflects a 24% increase in volume, a slight 2% decline in turnover, and a 3% uptick in deal count, showing sustained trading momentum despite muted profit taking. The market capitalization stood higher at 88.4 trillion naira, maintaining the uptrend in valuation. Of the 127 equities that traded, the market breadth tilted negative, with 28 gainers and 54 losers, suggesting some level of sell-off after several sessions of gains. UAC of Nigeria led the gainers chart with a 10% surge, closing at 80 naira 30 kobo per share from an opening price of 73 naira. Wema Bank followed with a 10% gain, ending at 22 naira, while Guinness Nigeria appreciated by 9.96%, closing at 117 naira 5 kobo, and Skyway Aviation Handling Company climbed 9.95% to close at 90 naira 5 kobo. On the losing side, the Initiates PLC recorded the steepest drop with a 10% decline, falling from 15 naira to 13 naira 50 kobo per share, followed by AXA Mansard Insurance, which also declined by 10%, closing at 11 naira 70 kobo from an opening price of 13 naira per share. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Stock Exchange All-Share Index extended its bullish run on Thursday, climbing by 584.85 points to close at 139,863.52. This performance reflects a one-week gain of 5%, a four-week advance of 16.22%, and a solid year-to-date return of 35.89%, reinforcing investor confidence and the Nigerian equities market's position as one of the best performing in the region. This is Business News in Global News. I am Chimize Zadima.
Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo held the first meeting of a joint oversight committee on Thursday, taking a step towards implementing a peace deal agreed last month in Washington, even as other commitments are yet to be fulfilled. The African Union, Qatar, and the United States joined the meeting of a committee in Washington, which was established as a forum to deal with implementation and dispute resolution of the peace agreement. A deal in June between Rwanda and Congo marked a breakthrough in talks held by U.S. President Donald Trump's administration, which aims to bring an end to fighting that has killed thousands and attracted billions of dollars of Western investments to a region rich in tantalum, gold, cobalt, copper, titanium, and other minerals. In the Washington Agreement, two African countries pledged to implement a 2024 deal that will see Rwandan troops withdraw from eastern Congo within 90 days. It also said Congo and Rwanda would form a joint security coordination mechanism within 30 days and implement a plan agreed last year to monitor and verify the withdrawal of Rwandan soldiers within 3 months. Next is the sports package with Christopher Lely.
Welcome to Sport News on Signature TV. I am Christopher Lely. The Nigerian Football Federation (NFF) Referees Development Committee mapped out plans to commence pre-season programs for referees ahead of the 2025/2026 NPFL season. The pre-season programs feature medicals, fitness tests, and class examinations for referees from the 36 states and the FCT, who have been divided into 3 groups for a smooth exercise. The Niger State Ministry of Youth and Sport Development has officially submitted its bid to host the 24th edition of the National Sports Festival. The bid document was presented to Governor Umaru Bago during the State Executive Council meeting at the Government House in Minna. Leading the presentation were the Commissioner for Sport, Yahaya Ibrahim, and the Ministry's Permanent Secretary, Nuhu Gabar, who jointly made the case for Niger State's readiness to host the multi-sport event. Niger State faces competition from Kano, Bayelsa, Plateau, and Kaduna State for the hosting right of the 2028 edition. Following Victor Osimhen's transfer from Napoli to Galatasaray, a former midfielder of the Turkish club Talan Antayali said he was surprised by the move. He said he never expected the Nigerian international to choose a move to Turkey over the likes of Premier League giants Chelsea. Many had expected clubs such as Chelsea, Arsenal, or Manchester United to pursue the player this summer, but the Nigerian, according to reports, wanted to remain in Turkey. Chelsea had shown strong interest in Osimhen last summer, but could not meet the player's personal demands, leading to the collapse of the deal. This opened the door for Galatasaray to make a stunning move for the player. Osimhen is currently at Galatasaray, where he's putting the finishing touches on his transfer to the Turkish top flight. His permanent move is regarded as a major coup for Galatasaray, where he spent last season on loan. Osimhen remains the most expensive Nigerian footballer in history after sealing a permanent move to Galatasaray this summer after spending the last season on loan with the Istanbul club. Galatasaray will now pay his full €75 million release clause within a year. Incidentally, this is not the highest transfer fee paid for Osimhen. Osimhen cost Napoli €78.9 million when he joined from Lille ahead of the 2020-2021 campaign. Fulham playmaker Alex Iwobi is the second most expensive Nigerian footballer, with the €30.4 million Everton paid Arsenal in the 2019-2020 season. Kelechi Iheanacho cost Leicester City €27.7 million. Fulham paid Everton €25.7 million for Iwobi, and Igalo was bought for €23.3 million from Watford in the 2016-2017 season. Alexander Isak could unilaterally terminate his contract with Newcastle United in a bid to force a move to Liverpool. According to the UK Mirror, it is the nuclear option Isak could consider. The Swedish striker did not travel with the rest of his teammates for their pre-season tour of Asia, with the Magpies initially claiming it was due to an injury. However, it has now become clear that Isak's absence is due to his determination to engineer a move to Anfield. Newcastle are believed to want a stunning €150 million transfer fee for their talisman. Should they continue to block a move or price Liverpool out of a deal, Isak and his camp may explore a drastic alternative, terminating his contract. And that ends the sports news on Signature TV. I am Christopher Lely.
That's the news this hour. I am Barry Kumo Ado. Thank you very much for watching.